Shalom, all praise the Yahweh Shemel Shah, double line to the Apostle GMS. This is Anwar Allah coming at you in another video. And in this video, I want to focus on the book of 1 Peter, chapter 4, verse 16. Let's get right to it, which goes into, suffering and its truth. So let's get right to it. This is the book of 1 Peter, chapter 4, verse 16. Yet if any man suffer as a Christian, let's stop right there. First, look at that word suffer. Now I went on Google and typed in suffer definition. Now I'm going to scroll down right here. AI overview. It says, in the Bible, suffer means much more than just pain. It encompasses experiencing hardship, enduring affliction, undergoing punishment, sustaining loss, or even being permitted to do something. Like Yahweh Shah suffering little children to come to him. So it goes, like, in other words, he allowed them to come to him, or he permitted them to come to him. It's a key theme revealing that suffering, often from the world's brokenness, can be a way to develop character, draw closer to the Most High, share in Yahweh Shah's work, and display His glory, transform a calamity into purpose. Now, there's a lot more things I could read here, but I don't have to read all of the definitions of it, but we get the point. So suffering there means encompasses experiencing hardship, enduring affliction, right? Let's go back. That if any man suffer or endures hardship or affliction as a Christian, look at the word Christian.
Strong's G 5546. Christianos.
Christianos. It says Christian, the follower of Christ, right? Which you know his name is Yahweh Shah. Christian means anointed. Now let's read here. It says, when you go to the Vine's Expository Dictionary of New Testament words, it says Christian, a word formed after the Roman style, signifying an inherent of Yahweh Shah, was first applied to such by the Gentiles and is found in the Hebrew Scriptures, Acts 11:26, 26 verse 20, chapter 26 to 28, and 1 Peter 4:16. But look at the word adherent. Adherent, it says, an adherent, a supporter or follower of a leader, cause, religion, or idea. That's the main point I wanted to get to. But let's jump down. Alright, we're going to jump down to right here. Tacitus. I'll start a little bit more up to where it says as applied, a few lines up. So it says, as applied by the Gentiles, there was no doubt and implication of scorn, as in Agrippa's statement in Acts 26 verse 28. Get that real fast. Then Agrippa said unto Paul, thou almost persuadest me to be a Christian. Boom. So so if you're saying you almost persuaded me to be a Christian, the way he's saying it's obvious. They would look at it as a sign of scorn. It was a term of ridicule. Tacitus, who was a Roman historian and politician, Tacitus in the Annals or Years of Imperial Rome. Tacitus, writing near the end of the 1st century, says the vulgar called them Christians. The author or origin of this denomination, Christus, had in the reign of Tiberius been executed by the procurator Pontius Pilate. Annals 1544. From the 2nd century onward, the term was accepted by believers as a title of honor. And we read up a little bit towards the top of the paragraph. It says, though the word rendered were called in Acts 11:26 might be used of a name adopted by oneself or given by others, the Christians do not seem to have adopted it for themselves in the times of the apostles. So during the time of the apostles, they seem to not have been a word that they adopted among themselves. So it's a term used to scorn, but not necessarily a term that they reference themselves as. And then it says from the 2nd century onward at the bottom, it was accepted by believers as a title of honor. So let's get back to the scriptures. So it says, yet if any man suffer as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify the Most High on his behalf. So if you suffer as a Christian or as a believer, right, don't be ashamed. Glorify the Most High on your behalf, on his behalf. Glorify the Most High on this behalf, meaning on the behalf that you suffer in persecution for his name. Look at the scripture. Acts 15:41. And they departed from the presence of the council, rejoicing. Let's start a little more. I'll start from Acts 5:38. And now I say unto you, refrain from these men and let them alone. For if this counsel or this work be of men, it will come to naught. And basically the apostles were told not to teach in the name of Yahushua, but they continue to teach. So this is Gamaliel, who's speaking on their behalf, saying, leave them alone. Because if this counsel be of men, if this work that they're doing be of men, if it's just man's doing, if it's not of the Most High, in other words, it's going to come to naught, meaning to nothing. But if it be of the Most High, you cannot overthrow it, lest happily you be found even to fight against the Most High. But if it be of the Most High, you can't overthrow it. Because then now you're fighting against the Most High, you can't go against the Most High's will. And to him they agreed, and when they had called the apostles and beaten them, they commanded that they should not speak in the name of Yahushua and let them go. So they beat the apostles for teaching the name of Yahushua. Okay? See? Speak about the captains with the officers and the high priest and so forth. In other words, the Jews. And they said, and they departed from the presence of the council, rejoicing that they were counted worthy to suffer shame for his name. So they rejoiced that they suffered shame for the name of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. They rejoiced. They weren't being punished for something that they had done that was wrong. No. They weren't being punished for something that they had done that was wrong. They were doing that which was right. You know what I'm saying? They were doing that which was right. And they suffered shame. But they rejoice. So that's what we got to do. So let's go back. So whenever you catching hell, you know what I mean, and you're doing the right thing, because it's going to say perfect love casteth out fear. So, and love is the keeping of the commandments. So as long as we're doing what the scriptures say do, we shouldn't fear being judged by the Most High for wrongdoing. So if we're doing right by Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, any suffering that you undergo is going to be for the righteousness of Yahushua sake. So it's to refine you. You're dealing with hardship of the world to bring you closer to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. There's other scriptures I can get on that. The scriptures speak about, about suffering. I can get more scriptures on that, but that's the point on that. So let me get to the other scripture. Because the scripture tell you, speak about being punished for wrongdoing. The scripture speak about that. You know what I'm saying? Being punished for wrongdoing. Being punished for that's right. That's 1 Peter 2 verse 20 to 24. I could get that, but that's good on that. Y'all can look that up. 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 20 to 24. Matthew 5 and 11. This is Yahushua speaking. Blessed are you when men shall revile you. But it will revile. Alright.
Strong's G 3679. Anaidizo.
Anaidizo. To reproach, upbraid, revile. In other words, to reproach, like to speak ill of you. Look at the word reproach real fast. Reproach means to express disapproval or blame towards someone or something. Or it can refer to blame, disgrace, or cause of shame itself. So, undeserved reproach, see that? So someone is reviling you, that's reviling us for doing that which is right. That's undeserved reproach. And persecute you. So people gonna persecute you. Are you one of the Israelite guys? You might have your woman that want to break up with you. Your family turned against you. Your job want to fire you. Want to give you a hard time so they could justify firing you or to make you quit. Things like that can happen. Being out there on the streets teaching. People making videos talking trash. And your common boy talking trash. Alright? So it says, blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all men of evil against you falsely for my sake. So you got people that's going to do that. They're going to say all men are evil against us falsely. But it's all for the sake of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. Because you're doing that which is right. So you're going to have people that's going to come up against you. You're going to have people that's going to do that. You got to keep these scriptures in mind. In all aspects of life, whether it's involved in teaching the word or just you encountering people out there in the world. You know what I mean? Rejoice and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward in heaven. So if you're undergoing that, just rejoice and be glad, because you got a reward that's great in heaven. Because that's the sign that you're doing the right thing. It's when you're not catching hell, that's when you got to start to worry of everything going good. Don't just because speak about the Most High chastening those who He love. So if you're not going through chastening, if you're not going through hardship, then that's a sign for you to say, hold on, wait, what's going on? Now you got to check yourself. You got to examine yourself. You see if you're doing that which is right. You know what I mean? It's like working out. You're working out and you want to feel that burn, you want to feel that pump. If you ain't feeling that, then guess what? You got to get more reps in. Maybe you're resting a little too long in between sets. You know? You're good with your pull-ups, but you're not good with your chin-ups. You know what I mean? So you got to switch to that. You got to switch to the chin-ups. You got to work your biceps that way. You know what I'm saying? So one thing, if you gotta examine yourself. You understand what I'm saying? And see what's going on. So like this truth is like a spiritual exercise. You gotta feel that burn, that fire. So if one exercise is not causing you to feel it burn, you gotta look at your regimen and see what's going on. So if you're not going through that fire, that suffering, it could be car issues, whatever, health, whatever. If you're not going through certain kinds of hardship, that's when you gotta start to think. So it says, blessed, rejoice and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. So the prophets out before went through the same thing. That's not happening with the people in these churches. Everybody loved them. Everybody loved them. You know what I'm saying? Everybody loved them. But not us. Of all the camps that's teaching the scriptures, saying Israelites, JMS get the most hate, so we gotta be doing something that's right. Through the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Al-Shah. This is 2 Timothy 1 verse 11 and 12. Whereunto I am appointed a preacher and an apostle and a teacher of the Gentiles, for the which cause I also suffer these things. So you suffer various different things. You know? Various different things. And he speaks about that. And Apostle Paul speaks about that throughout his epistles, throughout his letters. So it says, for which cause I also suffered these things. He speaks about his sufferings. He was beaten with stripes, shipwrecked. He dealt with wild beasts in Ephesus, all types of things. For the which cause I also suffer these things. Nevertheless, I am not ashamed. So you're not ashamed. Not ashamed. Why you be ashamed for? If you know you're suffering for righteousness' sake. Scripture speak about that. Nevertheless, I am not ashamed, for I know whom I have believed. Look at the word ashamed.
Strong's G, 1870. Epaischunomai.
To be ashamed doesn't really give us much there. Look at the word shame, overview. And shame means feeling distressed, guilty, or embarrassed because of one's own actions, mistakes, and character, often leading to a desire to hide or avoid situations. See, that's an example of a person being ashamed. They trying to hide from or avoid situations. So ultimately, it's going to feeling distressed, guilty, or embarrassed because of one's own actions, mistakes, or character. So the Apostle Paul didn't feel that way. Nah, he didn't feel that way at all. Because if so, he would have been fell out. And that's why a lot of guys leave. Everybody talking about us, my family this, my family that. You know? For which cause I also suffer these things, nevertheless, I am not ashamed. And look at the word nevertheless. What does it mean? It means in spite of that, or however. Used to introduce a contrasting statement. And what's the contrasting statement? Nevertheless, I am not ashamed. For I know whom I have believed. See, that's the contrasting statement. Why be ashamed? For I know who I believe. So nevertheless, in spite of suffering those things, I'm not ashamed, for I know whom I have believed. And am persuaded that he is able to keep that which I have committed unto him against this day. So he knows that the Most High, Yahweh Shah, is going to give the Apostle Paul his reward. he knows that everything he's doing is not going to be in vain. He knows being counted up in heaven, he's going to receive a reward with the kingdom of heaven. He knows that. He just knows this is what he's going through. That what he's going through, the hardship he's going through, is part of it. Okay? So it's good to say, endure hardness the good soldier of Yahushua. So it's good to say, through much tribulation shall enter the kingdom of the Most High. I think that's Acts 16:22. Luke 6:22. Blessed are ye when men shall hate you and when they shall separate you from the company. I don't want to be around that guy. And we ain't dealing with GMS. We're going to have a unity camp and go against GMS. All the camps band together. They're going to have unity camps, and there's a bunch of guys. I'm not saying they band together for the sole purpose against GMS, but they band together. And there was all a bunch of guys that were going at GMS at one point in time or another. I'm just using that as an example, though. I'm saying, so when people don't want to deal with you, you're blessed. And shall reproach you and shall cast out your name as evil for the Son of Man's sake. You basically read that in the book of Matthew 5:11. Rejoice ye in that day and leap for joy, for behold, your reward is great in heaven, for in like manner did their fathers unto the prophets. Acts 14:22, last scripture. Confirming the souls of the disciples and exhorting them to continue in the faith, that we must through much tribulation enter into the kingdom of the Most High. So through much tribulation, you got to go through to enter into the kingdom of the Most High. And that scripture, endure hardness the good soldier of the Lord, is 2 Timothy 2 verse 3. It should be 2 Timothy 2 verse 3. On to probably about verse 5. So you got to go through that, man. It's a part of it. So with that, I'm going to close. I'm saying, oh, praise Yahweh, Shema Shah, that belongs to the Apostle GMS. I hope you learned something. Shalom.